Hi everyone, I am Freya Gabang, together with my partner Regina Manapo of BS AdMat 2B at Carlos Silado Memorial State University. Today, we will explore how to prove an argument related to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals using logical rules of inference. But before we get started, let's briefly introduce the rules of inference, which are logical tools used to derive conclusions from given premises.
But before we proceed to our arguments, what is the rules of inference? First, we have addition. P, therefore, P or Q. For simplification, P and Q, therefore P. And for absorption, P implies Q, therefore P implies the quantity of P and Q. For conjunction, PQ, therefore P and Q. And for modus ponens, P implies Q, P, therefore Q. For modus tollens, P implies Q, negation Q, therefore Q. For disjunctive syllogism, P or Q, negation P, therefore Q. For hypothetical syllogism, P implies Q, Q implies R, therefore P implies R. For constructive dilemma, the quantity of P implies Q and the quantity of R implies S. P or R, therefore Q or S. Lastly, De Morgan's negation of the quantity of P or Q by conditional negation P and negation Q. Negation of the quantity of P and Q by conditional negation P or negation Q. Let's try to prove if example number 1 is a tautology. So let us start with our first argument, which is SDG 1 or no poverty. And here is the first argument. If the City of Smile promotes high-income jobs and improves quality education, then poverty rates will decrease. The City of Smile improves quality education. They also promote high-income jobs. Therefore, poverty will decrease. We have here our propositions P, Q, and R, where P stands for City of Smile promotes high-income jobs, and Q stands for improves quality education, and lastly, R stands for poverty rates will decrease. Basing from argument, we now have three hypotheses, which are the quantity of P and Q implies R from our first sentence, Q from sentence number 2, and lastly P from sentence number 3, and we need to prove the R. So again, we have our hypothesis and what we need to prove. So the first thing that we can do is perform conjunction from number 3 and 2, and we have P and Q. Lastly, to finish the process, we use the modus ponens from number 1 and 4 to have R and making our arguments valid, and that's it. Our first argument is tautology.
And now, let's proceed to example number 2, where the argument is related to SDG 3, good health and well-being. The argument we need to prove is, if healthcare facilities increase health financing or strengthening health workforces, then universal access to affordable medicines for all increases. Universal access to affordable medicines for all decreases. Hence, healthcare facilities decrease health financing also. Our first step here is to determine the premises based on the argument above. Let P represent the first premise, healthcare facilities increase health financing. Let Q represent strengthening health workforces, and R represent universal access to affordable medicines for all increases. If you want to attempt proving this argument, feel free to pause the video and give it a try. Given that the first hypothesis of quantity P or Q implies R, and the second hypothesis is negation of R or not R, we need to prove negation of P or not P. By applying modus tollens to the first and second hypothesis, we can get negation of quantity P or Q. And by applying De Morgan's law to the third hypothesis, we obtain negation P and negation Q. Finally, by applying the rule of simplification to the fourth hypothesis, we can conclude negation of P. Therefore, we have proven that the conclusions of this argument is not P or negation of P. Now, let's move on to the third example, which focuses on Sustainable Development Goal 4, aimed at promoting quality education. The given argument is, the government officials promote equal access to quality education, then discrimination in education decline, and government officials promote inclusive lifelong learning for all. Discrimination in education did not decline, therefore government officials did not promote equal access to quality education. Again, let's determine the premises based on the argument above. Let P stands for the government officials promote equal access to quality education. Let Q stands for the government officials promote inclusive lifelong learning for all. And R for discrimination in education decline. Take a moment to pause the video if you want to prove it yourself. Given that the first hypothesis where P implies the quantity of R and Q, and the second hypothesis is negation of R or not R, we need to prove negation of P or not P. By applying addition to the second hypothesis, we can get negation R or negation P. And by applying De Morgan's law to the third hypothesis, we obtain negation of quantity R and Q. Finally, by applying the rule of modus tollens to the fourth hypothesis, we can conclude not P or negation of P. Therefore, we have proven that the conclusions of this argument is not P or negation of P.
Well, this brings us to the end of our talk, and we appreciate your time and interest. Thank you for watching!